Good day, everyone. By the way, my name is Daniel Howe, and we are going to discuss Chapter 10, which is the social menace of drug addiction. Next slide, please. So these are the drug definition. First is the clinical definition is a therapeutic substance other than food use in the prevention. Next, general definition is a substance aside from food intended to affect the structure or function of physiological system like human body. Next is the popular definition. It refers mainly to chemical or plant-derived substances that affect the body's psychological, behavioral, or physical functions that can lead to varying degrees of dependence or addiction. Another definition of drugs is a substance that can affect the body and the mind, sometimes both and at the same time, and it can be used in medical purposes or recreational purposes, and they're usually found in plants. So next reporter is Miss Hoyo.
Next, please. So, good day everyone. My name is Crystal Hoyo, and today I will talk about what is addiction and classification of dangerous drugs. So, addiction is not having control over doing, taking, or using something until it becomes harmful. Having a difficult time without it during the day. So, muhatag ko real life example ani niya para masabtan yun nato kung unsa gining addiction. So, I have a friend of mine nga inosente kayo sa tanan life. Di jud mo inom, smoke, and all. Pero sukad atong nagbarkada-barkada siya na influence siya siyang friends nga mo inom og alcohol and mo smoke. Then after pila ka months ato, mo to permi na jud nako siya makit-an nga mo smoke and inom sa ilahan. I asked him nga sige siya gana nga di man ta siya magigana sa una. And he tell me nga di daw niya kaya nga di siya makainom sa usa ka adlaw then murag magpangita jud siyang baba sa cigarette. So mo ni siya ang example sa addiction, lisod na kayo likayan and di na nimo kaya nga mawala na sila. Next please. Now I will talk about the classification of dangerous drugs. First one, we have the prohibited drugs. So, prohibited drugs are pretty much off limits in the eye of the law. This means that they can't be legally bought or sold in the United States. So you will likely see some sort of trouble if you're caught growing or making, distributing, or using prohibited substances. So prohibited drugs can be extremely dangerous and are not medically monitored. These types of substances may include heroin or methamphetamine. Then the effects of using prohibited drugs, one of the most common and dangerous risks of using prohibited drugs is developing an addiction. Addictions may come with changes to the appearance, uncontrollable mood changes, overdose, and even coma or death. The next one, we have the regulated drugs. So regulated dependence. These kind of drugs can be obtained either over the counter, by prescription, or illegally. This depends on the substance. While all the different types of regulated drugs vary from one overarching thing in common, they are controlled by the Controlled Substance Act or CSA. The CSA founded in 1970 and it was created to decrease drug distribution and dependence. So last but not least, I will discuss to you the differences between prohibited versus regulated. So the main difference between regulated and prohibited drugs is that one type is regulated by the government and the other is not. They may also be ranked differently in terms of addictiveness. However, regulated and prohibited drugs can both be extremely dangerous and harmful to several areas of your health. Just because a substance is controlled or even legal, it doesn't necessarily mean you should be using it. So that's all for my part. Thank you. next, we have the common drug type. First, marijuana. So, how harmful is marijuana? So, although free of nicotine ni siya, ang marijuana kay makapulot gyapon siya og lungs. Kay ang marijuana can have negative and long-term effects man. First is your brain health, and then mental health, athletic performance, driving, also the baby's health and development, and also your daily life. Kaya using of marijuana can affect performance and how well people do in life. And research shows that people who use marijuana are more likely to have kanang relationship problems, worse educational outcomes, and lower career achievement and reduced life satisfaction. So next, we also have methamphetamine hydrochloride, or also known as shabu. So kani siya, white ni siya og odorless, bitter tasting crystalline powder that easily dissolves in water or alcohol. And the use and effects of these kay kuan, increased attention, higher levels of activity and um, talkativeness, decreased appetite, reduced fatigue, a feeling of power and self-control, and a pleasurable sense of well-being or euphoria. And ang health risk kay ang methamphetamine use can lead to a number of other health problems, including dependence, heart problems, and other physical and mental issues. So next, we also have inhalants. How do inhalants affect your body? So inhalant can cause damage to the heart, kidneys, brain, liver, bone marrow, and other organs. Makakuha ni siya kanang it can starve the body of oxygen and force the heart to beat irregularly and more rapidly. And inhalant user risk sudden sniffing death syndrome. So death can occur the first time or the hundredth time an inhalant is used. So next, we also have ecstasy, also known as kanang beans, clarity, hug, love drug, molly, roll, Scooby snacks, snowball. Ang common side effects aning ecstasy kay some of the more common side effects kay kuan nausea, blurred vision, rapid breathing, increased heart rate, and involuntary teeth clenching. So, unsa man jay mabuhat aning ecstasy? Kanang it can boost your activity of kanang three brain chemicals called neurotransmitters, dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine. So, these chemicals play a part in a variety of functions such as mood, energy level, appetite, trust, sexual activity, emotions, and sleep. And people who use ecstasy report feelings of euphoria, warmth, openness, and clarity. And other adverse effects are kuan hyperthermia, cardiovascular, impaired mental ability, and risky behavior. Next, we also have narcotics or opiates. Narcotic, it is a dulls the body senses, leaving a person less aware and alert and feeling carefree. And it also relieves pain. So, narcotics can cause someone to sleep, fall into a stupor, have convulsions, and even sleep into a coma. And napun ni siya harmful effects. First, kay drowsiness, confusion, nausea, constipation, euphoria, and slowed breathing. So next reporter for cocaine.
So the next common drug type is cocaine. So cocaine is a powerfully addictive stimulant drug made from the leaves of the coca plant native to South America. So although kanang ang healthcare providers kay mo use sila cocaine as for medical purposes such as local anesthesia for some surgeries, but recreational cocaine use as illegal. So next is sedatives. So sedatives are a type of prescription medication that slows down your brain activity. They're typically used to make you feel more relaxed. So Doctors commonly prescribe sedatives to treat conditions like anxiety and sleep disorders, and they also use it as a general anesthesia. So, next is the steroids. So, steroids are a man made version of chemicals known as hormones. So, that are made naturally in the human body. So, are designed to act like these hormones to reduce inflammation. So, they are also known as corticosteroids and are different to anabolic steroids used by bodybuilders and athletes. So, ang steroids day kay won't cure your condition, but they're very good at reducing inflammation and will ease symptoms such as swelling, pain, and stiffness. So next is tobacco. So it is a plant grown for its leaves which are dried and fermented before being put in a tobacco products. So tobacco it contains nicotine, an ingredient that can lead to addiction. So which is why so many people who use tobacco find it difficult to quit. So there are also many other potentially harmful chemicals found in tobacco or created by burning it. So next is nicotine. So nicotine is a naturally produced alkaloid in the nightshade family of plants and is widely used recreationally as a stimulant and anxiolytic and as a pharmaceutical drug. It is used for smoking cessation to relieve withdrawal symptoms. So the next reporter is Lomabit.
Next slide, please. So, good afternoon once again. I am Menace and will be reporting about the reasons behind drug abuse. So, we all know that drugs or the abusive use of drugs is a disorder that affects a person's brain and behavior. So, why do people abuse the use of drugs? So, people take drugs because they want to change something about their lives. They think that kanang drugs is the solution, but eventually it doesn't. It just creates another problem that is prior to the problem that was there before. So people abuse drugs because first, they are curious. Okay, they say that curiosity is the loss of mind. Sometimes people tend to experiment with things that makes them curious. It's either nasa life friend na mo gamit o drugs and will share nila about sila experiences making one wonder about how it feels to be sedated or to be in that situation. So even if they know that drugs are bad, they won't believe anything bad could actually happen to them once they try it. So the next one is social influence or peer pressure. So one of the most well-known ways for people, especially teens and young adults these days, to start using drugs is through the external pressures from people, commonly known as peer pressure. So one may begin using and abusing drugs because of the influence of their peers. So para nila, it becomes a common interest among the group. It becomes something that they share all in common. So they feel pressured to continue the use of drugs even if they understand the dire consequences about it. Additionally, younger people may experience social pressure to use drugs from television, like mag-watch aloud TV, who are also taking drugs and all. Like it could be from the social media and other celebrity influences. And it's also possible that people see or use drugs being glorified in the media mo na ma-pressure sa sila to participate as well. So the next one is the new sensation. So drugs excite the parts of the body that makes you feel good. And the things that makes you feel good or the new things that makes you feel above the clouds is something that you would want to try over again until your body gets used to it and you get addicted. So then the sensation that you feel when trying drugs for the first time makes you want to do more, mao nang maganahan kag maayo mag-drugs because it feels good. Like you think it's sensational but actually isn't. So the next one is the rebellion and willingness to take risks, especially when teenagers take illegal substances that their parents strongly disapprove. So rebelling against parents has always been a hot topic, eh, di ba? When we want something, that something is illicit, of course, did you mo approve ang parents, ana, because wala man siguro yung parents na mo approve of something that is atrocious to our well-being. So, mao na siya. But the willingness to take risks in this illicit act is strong man, so of course, they tend to rebel para sa sensation that they need and would want to try and hantod sa mabot sa point na ma-abuse ang use because somehow it becomes a problem and you think that rebelling is the only solution to feed the hunger that's battling inside you. So lastly is escapism. To escape reality and to create fantasy. So, at some point of our lives, we tend to experience situations that are kanang hard to face and we think na ang only solution to escape reality is to hope is to take drugs. Yeah, maybe if mo take tog drugs, mo fade away ang problem, pero it eventually comes back. So some people use drugs to escape reality thinking that the agony and burden on their shoulder will go away if they use drugs in any form. But as what I've said, it doesn't. It only makes things worse. So, to end my month, drugs can come in all forms. It could be alcohol, stimulants, heroin, and hallucinogens, and others that was mentioned and wasn't mentioned by the previous reporters. So, regardless of the triggers for drug use, it is important to learn how to cope in healthy and productive ways because life is amazing, so don't waste it. So, I hope that everyone have learned something from us, and thank you for listening.